build up a relationship and get talking to somebody that you wouldn't normally have access to?
Because you see different social barriers and different social boundaries on Instagram than you might in...
Sorry, on Twitter, yeah.
Twitter, yeah. Any other questions, folks? Anybody got any other issue they want to raise? Yes. Question just here in the black.
Thank you. I think, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, I think we're all well used to them. I'd like to know what the panelists think the next big thing is going to be, especially maybe in a business-to-business environment.
We can retire on this one, right?
I would say, user-generated content. I would say, Meerkat and Periscope, some of these newer platforms that are allowing brands to humanize that much quicker would be on my radar right now.
Okay. Antonio?
I agree with Megan in terms of Meerkat and Periscope, but I think the next big thing is not going to be about the platforms itself. It's going to be more about how you build your own identity and find a way to survive without the need of those platforms, and also how you start thinking in a way how you probably should start thinking in using software and social media management tools in order to be able to have a clear picture about what is happening out there in all the different platforms and try to have a sort of control about what you're doing in all of them and have a real notion about what is actually happening. Because if you are a business and you are just looking to the Twitter feed, you don't have any idea about what's going on. You may have an idea of how many people go to your site, but you don't have a broad view of about all those things interact together. So it's important for you that you are able to identify, okay, this link comes from Twitter, this is the person that was tweeting, this person lives in Dublin, that person was on an event in Dublin that was talking about cloud. So you need to be, I think the next big thing is how you understand the web and how you put the web working for you.
The next big thing is you all already use it. It's Facebook and its extension WhatsApp. So how many people here use WhatsApp? Okay, everybody pretty much uses WhatsApp. So they haven't even started monetizing that yet, and you guys all use it. So it's by far the biggest thing, and it's already here.
And it's the biggest thing, why?
Because it's how we all communicate.
Raluca, same question to you.
Move a bit away from social media because, as Antonio said, I don't think it's about the platform. I think it's about what you do. So I think the next best thing would be mobile apps because we're all on our phone. And I have a really good example of a brand who has embraced the mobile strategy very well, and that's IKEA. They build a mobile app and they build an augmented reality home planner. And with this app, consumers can take a picture of their house, of a place in their house, and virtually place furniture in there, which shows us that we have to embrace the mobile strategy if we're doing marketing, and this has generated a lot of interest, and I think it's completely transformed the customer experience.
So that it's not necessarily a social platform that might be the next big thing, it might be living beside it on the smartphone.
That creates community is very important for brands right now. Anything, it could be, your choice, but you have to engage as a brand. You can't be, the days of I'm going to hire a PR agency to go be the voice of my brand, those days are dwindling, especially in sort of the lean, mean startup world. They're just opting out of the whole thing completely because it doesn't feel authentic somehow.
To some degree, do you find yourself in a position, if you are engaging to the extent that you all describe, that you are competing with what used to be provided, and is to a large extent, through media organisations? I mean, the type of content that you're describing is currently provided by big, heavily funded media organisations, whether it be the Daily Mail Online, whether it be Forbes, whether it be the Wall Street Journal. They're all doing it. So how does the small to medium enterprise compete in that space? Antonio?
We do a lot of work in the European market, and something that we identify is the digital market in Europe is different on every country, and they are at different levels of evolution. So you can't apply the same techniques in Germany that you can apply in France, that you can apply in Ireland. So the understanding about digital is different. So you need to have this notion about where the maturity of that market is in digital in order to be able to apply. Probably for a market, if I'm an Irish company and I want to sell in Italy, I really need a very strong PR company to work with me, because that's how the Italian market works. People don't care much about social media, or they are not active. If I go back to France, I may apply the same thing. But I think in the UK, I need to make sure that I'm able to connect with a company that is doing a very good work in social media, because the UK market is one of the #1 in Europe in that space. So I need to know where I go in order to make that choice.
And have you any understanding of why that is the case? Why there isn't the Italian appetite for social media?
No, if you, first, in some cases in South of Europe, mobile is very expensive. So people end up using their mobile at home with their pajamas over their personal Wi-Fi. They are not using it on the go, like in UK or Ireland. So that changes the way how they interact with brands and with everything. So you need to be aware of this type of. There's quite a good number of studies also about the digital awareness of business, and some business they prefer to keep the legacy than to adjust to new technologies, and that's one of the cases of Italy.
Now, within the Irish market specifically, do you find yourself competing with media outlets?
Yeah, and I think we're probably better than them in terms of producing content, because media organisations, if you're the Irish Times or a big company like that, you've got 1,000 really high-paid journalists, you've got pensions, you've got overheads, you've got loads of stuff, and they are struggling. Like, media organisations are up against it hugely. So what you're seeing is a huge migration of journalists writing for publications to go and to write for startups or to go and write for brands. And the really smart brands, we were talking earlier about having time to do that. Hire a couple of journalists and start thinking of yourself as a little media organisation, because that's the way the world's going.
Is that the way you have to do it? It's actually thinking of yourself as a media organisation? That's
yeah. I mean, like, I would say 30-40% of our business is producing content.
Well, look at.
You can always get bloggers as well, or just get some interns that are passionate about writing and invite people to write, because the more they write and the bigger the community you build, they get visibility as well, so it's a win-win situation.
And I suppose it brings us back to elements of what you were talking about at the outset, about balancing it with other activities, because the hiring of a journalist to work for you is a significant cost, and that puts you in the way up with pay and spray. Okay, other queries, questions? Anybody have another issue they want to raise? Okay, I'd ask for a couple of specific examples. I think, Luca, you gave us IKEA. Megan, I'll start on this end. What's your best example of this being done well?
I would say IBM globally as a brand is doing a really solid job of social media and humanizing their brand. Whether it's sponsoring Twitter chats or sponsoring blogging communities that they find interesting and think their audience will appreciate, they're investing pretty heavily in the concept of online community and social media. So I would say IBM gets shout outs from my end.
And that's as a simple brand building exercise.
Very thoughtful in their approach. I mean, I get probably 15 emails a day from brands that want to pick my brain, have an idea session with me, but they're not humanizing that process, and they're making me feel like, as somebody who's considered an influencer in a certain space, it's not a personal approach for me, so I just kind of go on to the next email, and I'm overloaded with emails as it is. I know a lot of people are right now, so it's it's the brands who are careful and they do their research. I know that they know who I am. I know that they've read some of my content. They're being thoughtful about it, and I appreciate that.
Antonio, same question. The best example that you've seen?
In B2B, I think the way how they have empowered their own employees to become ambassadors and give them the freedom of doing things without the blessing of PR or marketing, where you have individuals, experts going to YouTube, or they organize webinars about SharePoint, about any sort of technology, is allowing them to put into a position of leaders and experts in very different sectors. So from cloud, from marketing, so they are doing a very interesting job on that space, and I'm sure that others will follow them.
Now, just before I get yours, I wanted to get your views on the absolute don'ts, the worst disasters, the things that you should absolutely avoid. Just want to check that I'm not overlooking anybody with a query, because we're probably getting close on time, so if there is anything you want to ask, do fire on that. Yeah, best example now.
Best example, I was trying to think of brands there, and that's why I wasn't being rude, I was just looking at my phone. And genuinely, I used to have an agency where we did campaigns for brands, and I just don't want to see brands on my social media feeds. I know we're all here to talk about brands, but I don't want that crap. I don't want somebody to tell me they got a special offer or anything like that. The less of them I can have in there, the better. And I think that's how consumers are. It's really tricky to get at them. But I think one to watch is definitely BuzzFeed. They're a media company. Everybody thinks it's lists of cats and people falling off roofs and stuff like that, but they're probably the most important media company out there at the moment because they don't have any traditional banner advertising on their sites. It's all integrated content, and they've gone from writing lists about cats to interviewing Obama. So I think give them 3 or 4 years and they'll be maybe the biggest media company in the world.
Well, can I ask anything of not wanting to see brands? One of the things that you seem to have consensus around the outset that is, if you're going to blog or if you're going to tweet or if you're going to post, it should be in areas about which you are passionate. Most people representing their companies, whether they be big or small, are passionate about their companies, passionate about their products, and want to tell the world. The world often doesn't want to hear it. That's why newspapers have editorial and have advertising. In that instance, how do you get the balance right? If you listen to what you just said and think, well, okay, once I've given them the 9th picture of the cat, I'd really like to pitch them a special offer. How do you do that without undoing all your good work?
I have to go, guys.
Paddy Power did a very good job of giving that. It's a very specific demographic. It's 25 to 35-year-old men. They give them really funny memes and stuff like that. And then I've heard them, they're pitched it, they'll just get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then match time on Saturday is the only time they sell. So 1 o'clock till 3, they'll have a special sign-up offer. They know everybody's sitting in front of their TV with cans out.
And do you believe their community sees that as the trade-off? You'll give us this all week, we'll give it a bit of a pitch at the end of the week.
Yeah, I think, but that's one of, I could name them on one.